best to write it in your name as Lord.
So, Margaret.
What exactly am I to write?
Question is how? We need to learn where they stand on liberating the king and how they'll make trouble.
So, it looks like you're off on a mission.
Yes, I can't wait.
I don't want to dampen your spirits, my boy, but watch out. These are evil times, and who knows what can happen along the way. Not to mention that Bergov is no saint.
Don't worry.
I know. You've shown you can fend for yourself, but do take care. You'll be traveling as Lord Capon's bodyguard. You'll be there to make sure nothing untoward happens to him. Keep your eyes peeled and your ears wide open. What Bergov tells you is one thing, but what you see may...
Rest assured, Father.
And don't get embroiled in anything else. Just hand over the letter, hear out his reply, and return.
Yes.
Very well. Bergov is at Trotsky Castle. I think you'll find it quite an eye-opener. It's one of the finest castles in the land. It's 3 days' ride from here, so unless you hit a snag along the way, you'll be back soon enough. Any questions?
I'm getting a bit lost in the Luxembourg lineage. It all seems a bit too tangled.
The Luxembourgs have ruled the Empire and Bohemia for almost 100 years now. Emperor Charles brought this land to prominence. When he was in power, things had never been so good. Wenceslas and Sigismund are his sons, but by different mothers. Jobst and Prokop are their cousins. They were entrusted with governing Moravia. But instead, they've been in a bitter armed feud for years, and now Sigismund's fallen out with Wenceslas. Wenceslas also had another brother, the youngest, John of Görlitz, who was most probably poisoned. They seem like a hot-blooded lot. It's hard to keep up with their affairs, since they tend to change their alliances from one day to the next.
Who is he really, this Jobst?
The cousin of King Wenceslas. He's the Margrave of Moravia. I admit I don't know what to make of him myself. Until recently, he was allied with the League of Lords. For a time, he even served Rupert of the Palatinate against the king. And now suddenly, he's reversed his position. I don't know what led him to do it, and one can't help being suspicious. It's best to keep a watchful eye on him. But he really is the leader of the resistance against Sigismund these days. We'll just have to see how it all turns out.
I'm a bit concerned so many people seem to think so little of King Wenceslas. You knew him, didn't you? What's he really like?
Well, there's no straightforward answer to that question. He certainly makes a great hunting and drinking companion, but he can be very fiery and impetuous when things don't go how he'd like them. He never had much of a head for high office. He finds it tiresome. But once a man's grasped the scepter, it's hard to let it go again. You can't just abscond. You've seen for yourself what happens when he disappears for a few months. Better a bad but legitimate king than a bloody war over the throne.
Who is this Prokop that Job spoke of?
Jobst's brother, the king's cousin. He and Jobst warred over Moravian supremacy for years. Then they were allies for a while, betrayed Wenceslas and sided with Rupert of the Palatinate. But after Sigismund abducted Wenceslas, Prokop fomented a revolt against him, and Sigismund had him captured. Politics. Make of it what you will. I, for one, can't make head or tail of it most of the time.
The League of Lords and that Berghoff we're off to see. Who are they exactly?
The lords of the powerful houses. Heinrich of Rosenberg, Otto of Berghoff, Heinrich of Radetz, and others. They're unhappy with the way their influence declined after Wenceslas surrounded himself with the lesser orders of nobility. They abducted the king years ago and made him bow to their will. They got away with it that time, and now they've joined forces with Sigismund and done it again. But now it seems that Sigismund's behavior is starting to rub them up the wrong way, so they may well be thinking twice. We'll see what Berghoff has to say.
I don't know all that much about Sigismund.
He's the king's younger brother and king of Hungary in his own right. 7 years ago, he led a crusade against the Turks and was defeated at Nicopolis. Some say it was due to the recklessness of the French knights, most of whom were mercilessly slaughtered. Sigismund is ambitious and capable. He might well make a better ruler than Wenceslas, but he's arrogant, and to our misfortune, brutal. Not long ago, he himself was held captive by the Hungarian nobility. They dislike him as much as some of the Czech and German noblemen do his brother Wenceslas. Ironically, Wenceslas joined forces with Jobst to liberate him. And now this is how Sigismund repays his brother. There's no doubt about it, God does move in mysterious ways.
Rupert of the Palatinate. That's a name I hadn't heard before today.
Rupert is the Prince-Elector of the Palatinate.
What's a Prince-Elector?
The Prince-Electors are dignitaries of the Holy Roman Empire who have the right to elect the King of the Romans, who would then be crowned Holy Roman Emperor by the Pope. Rupert took the title for himself with the help of 3 other Prince-Electors, even though Wenceslas had already been appointed. Some of the nobility in the empire recognized Rupert's claim, but when he went to Rome to be crowned emperor, it turned into a fiasco. Now he's doing his utmost to get Wenceslas to acknowledge him, but so far without success. So, now we have 2 kings of the Romans. Jobst sided with Sigismund for a while, but now he's switched allegiance. He seems to do that quite a lot.
That young man, Sir John of Liechtenstein. Why is he here?
The Liechtensteins are a powerful Austrian family with estates in Austria and Moravia. Sir John sits on Jobst's council. Since the king's being held captive in Vienna, I suppose it makes sense to have a powerful Austrian house as allies. It could be very useful.
That's about all.
Very well. Take the letter from Sir Hanush.
I believe we have written it well, gentlemen.
Without a doubt. No one could deduce from this whether we are Sigismund's allies or foes.
I must travel back to Brno now, but soon I will go to Brandenburg and I will stop here on the way back. By then, Sir Capon should be back and we can discuss how to proceed.
Right. Before you leave, my lord, there is one thing that gives me no rest. Why did Sigismund come as a foe? It makes no sense.
If I may, sir, I think I can explain.
Oh, please enlighten us, young sir.
I live not far from Hungary, where Sigismund reigns. It is a savage country, and the constant war with the Turks has hardened the people. They need a monarch with an iron hand. So when Sigismund felt the wind of revolt, he reacted as he would at home. Only what works on the Hungarian nobles does not work here in Bohemia.
Bringing order is one thing, but slaughtering and pillaging with a horde of barbarians quite another. What purpose does that serve?
But Sigismund did give the Bohemian nobles a chance to take his side. It was only when they refused his ultimatum that he lost patience and took to the sword.
As for the barbarians, he could afford nothing better. The Hungarian nobility would gain nothing from joining his campaign in Bohemia. He didn't have enough coin for a regular army, and so he recruited the Cumans. What he does not pay them, they make up for in plunder.
But in the end, he didn't have enough to even satisfy the Cumans. That's why he raided Kuttenberg and Skalitz. He wanted the silver.
That makes sense.
My lords, how's the letter coming along?
It's done.
Then we can be on our way.
Now remember what we said, boy. All you have to do is deliver the letter, listen to the answer, and come back here. Don't provoke Berghoff in any way.
Provoke? Me? Never, Uncle. We'll be back in a few days. Farewell, your graces. Come, Henry, my men are waiting.
I wish you Godspeed.
Come now, Hal.
What the?
Yeah. Yeah.
How are you?
I hope I can be. Dig here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good health to you.
I'd like to.
Uh-huh. As you...
Fine.
I'm sure...
I put on the...
Wouldn't you like to...
I'd love to.
Listen, Teresa. There's something I ought to tell you.
What is it? What's troubling you?
I'm not quite sure how to tell you, so I'll just spit it out. So Radzig Kobyla is... my father.
And King Wenceslas is my cousin. You really had me going.
No, I'm serious.
What? But, Henry, how on earth could...
I know. It was a shock for me, too. It turns out Sir Radzig and my mother had some... romance. Of course, he couldn't marry a commoner.
And your father? I mean, the blacksmith. God, that sounds so odd. I mean Martin.
He knew Sir Radzig from way back. Martin... Pa married her before I was born. To protect her reputation. And raise me as his own.
And Sir Radzig allowed it?
Sure. Actually, I get a feeling the whole thing was agreed between them. Sir Radzig was glad she wasn't left alone with a child.
My God, Henry, that's just... And what will that mean for you?
I honestly don't know.
You don't know?
Well, it all depends on Sir Radzig, doesn't it? As his illegitimate son, I don't have any rights as such. Well, it's not like I've suddenly become a noble like Capon. And even though Sir Radzig has publicly acknowledged me, well, sort of, it hasn't really changed anything.
And if Sir Radzig decided to make a real noble of you, would you want that?
Me?
I think there's a little more to it than that, Henry. You'd have huge responsibilities.
True. But anyway, it's not important what I want. A bastard will always be a bastard.
I don't know. All sorts of things can change. Would you still care for me, a common millmaid, if you were a nobleman?
Of course. I'll always be fond of you. Nothing will change that.
I'll remember that. I hope you won't regret those words.
No fear of that.
Here we are.
On the Rat Aid tourney.
Thanks for...
My pleasure.
Good health to you. God be with you.
So, can we say...
Of course. I can't wait.
So, to horse! The Lord of Burgov is bound to be waiting as eagerly.
I'm getting used to it.
What about Rodzig? Has he accounted for not owning up to you the whole time?
He explained it. All will be well, I think.
Glad to hear it. It's far more acceptable for a nobleman to befriend a noble bastard than a blacksmith's son.
Yeah. Mind you, don't come to blows with a blacksmith, my young lord. What do you think about Sir Jobst and his plan?
Well, I admit all the scheming has me a little lost. I thought Sigismund was the devil, Wenceslas a martyr, those on his side the heroes, and those against him the villains. I believed we'd rescue the king and all would be well again, but now it looks a lot more complicated.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't expect the noble lords to be as noble as the angels, but I hadn't expected such a sewer. They behave like children.
I can't fathom how after all this backstabbing they're somehow still on speaking terms.
I don't know either. Beggar's belief.
Yeah.
Did you know that King Wenceslas is such a
Feckless drunkard? Not really. And to be honest, I'm not sure I wanted to know. I slept better believing my fate was watched over by a wise and powerful monarch.
So did I.
What a dismal world when you can't keep trust in your own king.
On the other hand, his times were better with him here than with him gone.
Isn't that the truth?
What do you think of Sigismund?
If I were him, I'd have had enough of my brother even sooner.
But he's a monster. Look at what those hordes of his are getting up to here. What he did in Skalitz.
True enough. On the other hand, if Wenceslas and Prokop hadn't double-crossed him, none of this would have happened.
No one forced him to burn Skalitz.
That's a fact. But he couldn't let them shit all over him either. Not that I'm defending him.
He's a weasel.
Yeah. No doubt about that.
Yeah. Do you know anything about Prokop?
Ha! Sir Hanush could tell you a thing or two about him.
Why?
Last winter, a certain Sir Jan Sokol of Lamberg, a well-known knight, or robber baron to some, tried to occupy the city of Iglau, which was on the orders of none other than Prokop.
And what has that got to do with Hanush?
Well, he was there with him. Of course, that's not something to brag about in front of Jobst.
And what was it all about?
They wanted to occupy a city that was on the side of the League of Lords, but despite there being several hundred strong, they didn't take it. For one thing, they couldn't get past the Iglau women, with their pitchforks and cauldrons of hot water.
I would never have thought of Sir Hanush as such a rebel. And have you heard anything about Rupert of the Palatinate?
A little. He can't manage even to wrest power from a king who doesn't much care for ruling and isn't fighting back. That doesn't seem like a man who has what it takes to rule. And that's all I need to know.
Yeah. And that Berghoff we're going to see, do you know anything about him?
I haven't heard much good about him, but I have a feeling that some other nobles are quite in awe of him. And his castle is apparently quite impressive. I'll be interested to see for myself.
Yeah. And what about the League of Lords?
Wealthy, pompous. The king doesn't seem to like them much. He's chosen to let the lesser ranks of the nobility into his circle, men like your father. I admit I don't blame him one bit. But the lords weren't happy about their lost influence, so they put their foot down. If I were Wenceslas, I'd have let them hang after they abducted me the first time. But he gave them seats at the provincial council? Little wonder they're back in their old tricks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about it, Henry? Can we go? Are you ready for this?
Of course.
Quite. Let's get to it then. I finally have the feeling we're doing something worthwhile. We're helping to save the king.
Instead of saving his drunken majesty, I'd rather find that horseman who murdered my parents, get the sword back from him, and skewer him with it.
Cheer up, Henry. I have a feeling you'll get your chance one day, and it won't be long in coming. Forward, men! Audentes fortuna juvat!